Okay, welcome to a brand new video and a brand new year. In today's video, we are going to be talking about my customizable content creator strategy guide for 2025. I'm going to share a little bit about my own content strategy for the year, but really today's video is dedicated to also helping you ensure that you have the tools and frameworks required to grow on social media in the new year. Because let's face facts, the world is an extremely different place than it was a year ago. And if this isn't your first year trying to grow an account on social media, you'll know that things are literally constantly changing. And so our own strategies and approaches to how we make our content needs to change as well, if of course we are going to stay relevant. So the first part of today's video, I'm going to do a little bit of a catch up, what I've been up to the last year, why my content's been kind of variable, and really what my plan is for the new year. If that interests you, feel free to keep on watching. If it doesn't though, you can skip to the section of the video that I've added below. That's going to take you right to the tips and tricks, the valuable pieces of information. But of course, if you're just down to hang out, chill out a little bit, treat this like a podcast, which is what my intention is for a lot of the videos on this channel for 2025, then thanks for watching. So with that, let's jump on into things. All right, so welcome back to the channel and of course the brand new year. It is now finally 2025, which is crazy. And thinking back to the last year, 2024 was a little bit mixed, if I'm being honest. And that's why I don't really want to get right into the tips and tricks. I figured it would be worthwhile to catch you guys up on everything that's kind of been going on, a lot of the content background and my business aspirations, etc., that I had to go through over the last year and where I want to take things this year. Because I set some pretty lofty goals for myself in 2024, and shockingly, I did achieve a lot of them. Not shockingly, there's a lot of work involved, but unsurprisingly, there were other goals that I did fall short of. So for example, one of my biggest goals for 2024 was to run my first marathon. I ran it in 3 hours and 51 minutes. Unfortunately, after that, I later injured myself running because I probably started running distance too soon. I ended up getting plantar fasciitis, been suffering ever since. I haven't really run ever since my marathon. It was the end of April. It was the Mississauga Marathon, but that was a big deal for me. It was like a personal goal. Other goals though were very much business focused. I had pretty lofty income goals that I was actually able to achieve, but because I was putting so much energy into my business and really feeling a little bit lost with my social media presence, all of my social media goals for my own personal presence, I fell short of. So if you don't know, I run my own creative studio. I've had a number of different clients, from Fortune 500 brands where I provide social media strategy services to other brands that maybe are small and medium-sized businesses local to the Toronto area that I provide content creation services like photo and video work. And so that's really what took a lot of my time. And if you've been following me since about 2020, you'll know that I've always been consistent on social. I've always posted my photos that I've been taking on my street photography trips or just even my travels and stuff like that. But at the beginning of 2024, things changed on Instagram and things changed on YouTube. And a lot of the engagement that I was seeing with my content wasn't really there. And if I'm being honest, a lot of the excitement that I had for street photography at the time was also quite fleeting. I'd find myself walking around Toronto and just not enjoying it. Like maybe it's how the city's changed over the last few years, or maybe it's just because I've gotten older and street photography isn't necessarily the thing that challenges me anymore. But whatever it might have been, I just wanted to try new things. So I tried posting fitness content at one point. I tried doing more social media tips and tricks. I obviously grew a whole separate page in 2023 around social media strategy and was quite successful with it, growing it to over 70,000 followers at the time in literally like 6 months. It was pretty insane. And a lot of great work came from growing that page, in fact. But all of these sort of sporadic efforts meant that a lot of my time was taken away. And if I'm being honest, I really didn't solidify what I wanted to actually post about anymore. I thought about doing travel. I thought about doing like health and wellness page, like a whole bunch of things just for myself. But it just never came to feel like the right approach. So instead, I decided to experiment. decided in around like June timing that I was going to post a video on YouTube that was just like a personal interest based video. And I posted pretty consistently on YouTube, about one video a week. Up until a certain point, I decided to cut it because I just also didn't really see it working the way that I wanted it to. And I basically took December to look back on the year, figure out what worked, what didn't work, and solidified my plan going forward. And so that's going to take us to the next section of today's video, because I'm going to show you everything that I've learned that worked on social media. I'm basically going to package this up into a social media guidebook for you, stepwise, that you can follow yourself, take yourself through this own exercise to really dial in what your content approach is going to be for the new year. So with that, let's get into part one of today's video. What tactics are working on social media right now? As sort of discussed, a lot of my posts on Instagram have been around street photography and content creation tips more broadly. And I tried dabbling in different areas, really tried experimenting with content. I was wanting to post what I actually had fun making. I took a ton of trips, tried making travel content, figuring out what content formats work for me. And eventually I stumbled upon a format that I did not expect to work. And I learned a lot of things as a result. I posted a video going to a Christmas market at the beginning of December, of all things. This was a pretty underrepresented Christmas market in like the Toronto culture. Nobody really knew that this thing existed. And this video got over 400,000 views. And you have to imagine that I was posting like moody street photography previous to this. And all of a sudden I come out with a Christmas market video showcasing a date that I went on with my girlfriend. And it really caught me by surprise because it was just so left field from anything I had ever posted. And it showed me that if a piece of content's good, the platform's going to show it to people. And so for the longest time, I figured my account couldn't pivot, that something was wrong with like what I was doing, how content was being distributed. I had client meetings about this as well, where we were all debating about if an account can die or like how it works. That's like the number one thing, by the way, in like agency world, is talking about low engagement accounts and how to revive them. A lot of brands gravitate towards paid media spend if content doesn't start to perform. I've always believed, like, I'm strong on this, that you can revive an account that has low engagement, but you have to dial in your content. And so this win of 400,000 views on this video was proof that you can do it. So this is like completely given me the energy needed for the new year to really over-index on how I'm going to be posting on social media in 2025. I'm excited to see how it works out, especially at the end of the year. We can revisit this and see if I was right or not, but that was sort of the catalyst to everything we're about to talk about, because there were a lot of different tactics that I tried. Different content formats, different ideas, and so here we land. So number one, here's what's working: raw and unpolished content. You've probably heard this all before, that raw and unpolished content is the way to go in pretty much everything that you're posting. You don't need an expensive camera. You don't need like super high quality video production and lighting and whatever. And I can say that that still remains true. However, I don't think that that's going to remain true to the end of the year. And I can say this because there were a couple clients I had that I paid attention to on what was basically going on, and they weren't able to actually streamline their content creation process. They had no systems in place, and they were relying on influencers to send them UGC style videos, which, as you know, are those types of videos that look like influencer videos but aren't. So it's like an easy way to just feed a content pipeline. And the problem with this is that everything on Instagram is starting to look like the same. Like nothing is intentional, I'm going to say. And so there's a difference between low quality, unpolished content and intentional content. And high quality content can also lack intention. And so the reality is that everything you post has to have a more intentional purpose behind it than simply just posting to get your product out there or to show face for your followers. Because especially, we're not going to talk about this today, but especially when AI becomes more popular and sort of run-of-the-mill cheap content becomes very easy to scale out, we're going to run into problems as content creators if you don't have a reason for everything you're posting. All right, 2 is multi-layered hooks. Now, this is something that I learned as a tips and tricks as well. Multi-layered hooks are when you take advantage of audio hooks and visual hooks, plus text or motion graphics. You need to really do a lot these days to get somebody to watch a video. And one of the things that I found work, especially in that raw and unpolished content side of things, is if you add text that looks native to the actual video, you have big call outs for what you're watching. This shouldn't really be news to anybody, but it's so often that I find a creator that doesn't even have captions or big call outs for what a video is going to be about. You have to do it tastefully, but if you just really reinforce that there's value in this video by titling things or having captions that actually provide value, it's going to work wonders for your content performance because people are going to be more incentivized to watch all the way through if your hook resonates with them. Number 3 is the personal life integration. Probably the number one piece of white space for either brands or content creators looking to grow on social media is integrating more of their personal life. Now, I'm actually not a fan of really doing this all too much because I found over the years of posting on social media for literally forever now that if you commodify your life and turn everything you do into a business, you risk burnout. You risk ruining relationships with people. You risk like conflating the issues, or like you risk conflating relationships for money. So for example, one of the things that's out there is that if you have a YouTube channel, the people that feature in your YouTube channel, they might be your friends or family, are characters in your videos. And I don't really understand this because if you're looking to build authentic relationships in your life, and you're thinking of everybody around you as a character and you're the main actor, that's crazy if you ask me. So the amount of personal life integration that you want to have, that you're comfortable with, that you think is safe for everybody around you, that's up to you. But I can say that when I do include personal life integrations on my stories, and what I've seen happen if with in-feed content that's more relatable, is that it's going to do better. And that's just simply because it humanizes you. It's very easy to build a faceless brand with cheap thought leadership gimmicks that sort of like over-index. If you want to actually connect with people, it's got to be a story. And the best way to build story is with personal touches. Number 4 is content diversity. When Instagram Reels actually came out, there was pretty much only short form video that anybody wanted to post. And that's because when it first came out, it was dramatically different in performance than any other content format. But that is no longer the case. The best thing that you can do to grow an account and engage your following is to diversify what content you're actually posting by ensuring you have a mixture of carousels, photos, reels, and of course, live streams. I'm a little bit like skeptical still on live streaming, especially for platforms like Instagram. But if you have an audience that loves live streaming, like a gaming channel or even cooking, you can really help your account's health by boosting engagement authentically. One thing I'll also add is there are a ton of innovative formats now for carousel posts that previously were never working. So things that you can do is having text callouts that are like stepwise or step-by-step posts themselves that used to be only something that was relegated to Reels. Instead, you can really get creative with how you format your carousels and build more engaging concepts that invariably will be shared more, will be saved more, and be more valuable to your audience than you can even communicate with a reel. All right, now it's time for the 4 things that are not working. Number 1, overly edited content. We talked about that raw, unpolished thing. Now we're talking about overly edited content. I think there is room for editing, but it has to be done tastefully. Especially these face filter, like over plastic surgery, like models that everybody sort of like, mixes in with Instagram as like that's what Instagram is. I think that is gone. But I think that if you are editing your work, you have to do it in a way that makes sense for the audience that you're trying to attract. And if you're a skincare brand, you're probably going to edit, but maybe your version of skincare branding is that you show the real authentic side and you don't need to like overly edit to make your skincare products look better, but you attract the following that way. All I'm trying to say is, again, it comes down to intentionality. Like, what are you trying to do with the actual post? 2 is inconsistent comment engagement. Probably the biggest opportunity right now for engagement on Instagram that actually builds relationships is commenting. This is more of a this is what I've noticed more so than like I have hard analytics on this, but I think comments are dying. I don't think a lot of people are commenting anymore. And if they do comment, it's definitely not as valuable. I think it's just because we're so inundated with content at the moment that there are so many things that we're paying attention to that we don't even feel a relationship or enough of a pull to comment on someone's post and say like, nice job, this looks good. So commenting as a brand or as a content creator is going to be super important because not a lot of people are doing it anymore. The next one is not documenting your personal life. So that's just the flip. I've put this twice because I really do think you need to inject some sort of personality that you are able to share with your community. And then number 4 is not doing analytics reviews. This one's important because if you're not checking your metrics, you have no idea what is actually working. And I see so many creators fall short because they just don't look at their analytics and they don't know what's performing. So I think you just have to get out a hold of yourself, whether it's weekly or monthly, to look at your analytics and understand your account health and what you need to change month to month to continue progressing towards your own social media KPIs. Okay, so with the tactics out of the way, how can we take it all together and design a social media strategy for ourselves going into the new year? Well, here is my step-by-step guide for doing that. Number 1, you need to define your audience. Who are you speaking to? This really shouldn't be new to anybody. If you don't know who you're trying to reach with the content you're putting out into the world, you're not going to end up really reaching anybody. And that's because social media has gotten hyper specific. A lot of the conversation right now is really around like how the sort of large macro followings aren't really going to be all that relevant anymore. And a lot of the hyperfixation on speaking to individual groups is going to be important, meaning that dialing in your audience and learning who you're speaking to is going to be extremely important. And if you don't know who you're actually speaking to or how to pick who you're going to speak to, you can look and ask the following questions to yourself. Some things I like to ask include, what problems does a potential audience have or need solved? How can your content fit into somebody's journey? Is it learning a new skill or is it being entertained? What topics do you think your audience could be entertained by? And what do you need your videos to look like to make a specific group of people entertained? And of course, can you make things engaging enough to resonate with a particular group? So for example, going into 2025, a lot of my goals center around content creators because obviously that's like my base, that's who I am, and I want to be able to make videos that I can enjoy. Creative individuals, adventurous people, travelers, and really just people looking to level up their lives and make an impact. So like, I'm going to say like a type A content creator figure that's really looking to make a difference. Like that's kind of the ideal mindset that I'm after. Another sort of subset of that is people interested in Canada. I want to really travel the country this year and have all of the content I make wrapped into that. From an age perspective, it's likely Gen Z and mid to early millennials, people passionate to make a difference, and of course, creators and brands looking for a guide on content creation, because a core thing that I do is obviously tips and tricks to a certain extent, and that's not going to go away, but it is going to look different. And so nailing these sort of aspects together is really going to help me cement my approach to my content creation. For example, if I don't want to reach people that are interested in Canada, I could travel the world, but that's not exactly what I want to do. Step 2 then comes down to your value points. Your value points dictate how you're going to connect to your audience and really cement what makes you unique compared to another channel. And this is essentially intentionality. This is the most important step that you need to do when thinking about your content strategy, because if you don't set what value you're going to provide, then you're really not doing anything for the people that are watching you. So you need to identify the purpose of your content. Are you educating, entertaining, inspiring, or just being relatable? Each one of these has a specific purpose. Education is obviously the tips and tricks channels. Inspiration might be those like videos, those reels that you see with inspirational quotes that really just fire somebody up to get after it. Entertaining is skits, comedy sketches you could think of. And of course, relatability might just be day in the life videos shot on your phone that you document and share with your audience. Whatever your value proposition is, you must cement, because it's going to change what your content looks like and what you end up communicating. Over time, you'll learn to connect with your community better, and you can also ask them questions on what they want to see. Maybe you've only been posting educational videos and there's a demand for you to vlog your life and share a little bit more about what you're about. That would be something that you can take into consideration as you refine your value propositions over time. Step 3 then is setting clear goals. If you don't have goals for your social media presence and your content overall, you're really going to be lost when it comes to understanding if you're trending in the right direction, or really knowing if you're getting out what you want from social media than what maybe you're getting. For example, followers can only go so far if you don't know why you're gaining followers in the first place or connecting with people. So setting in place goals like growing followers, increasing engagement, boosting likes, getting views is important because each metric ties back to probably a specific reward that you're looking for as a result of posting on the platform. So choosing key factors like for follower growth, track your number of followers weekly. For engagement, look at likes, comments, shares. These are all good indicators that people are liking what they're seeing. And of course, for views, as a more brand awareness approach, maybe you're just trying to spread a message, just look at views on your reels or impressions on your carousel posts themselves. They've sort of wrapped them all together now, but it might be different depending on where you live. The next step, and sort of an aspect we've already talked about, is defining what's called your content mix. And this comes with diversifying post formats. Used to be, especially with TikTok, that all anybody wanted to post was Reels because that's all TikTok was short form video. But now we have the opportunity to leverage different post formats. Reels grab attention with short form video. They're great for brand awareness, typically have higher viewership, but they fail to engage an audience on a more meaningful level. And that's because carousels are designed to retarget your audiences and connect with people deeply. These are great for encouraging engagement and swiping for entertainment, education, or simply just to have an entertaining journey. Like carousel posts are the most underrated format, in my opinion, on Instagram at the moment. And definitely if you're thinking in context of YouTube, this is something that you can complement your videos with by taking the best moments of your YouTube videos and then building them into carousels as well. Stories happen on Instagram. They're not a YouTube sort of addition, but you have them on TikTok as well. Stories are important for that relatability piece. And generally, if you're posting on stories, you're going to see higher engagement on the rest of your content. A recent algorithmic change with stories is that the first story in your posts actually receives the most engagement now, and less stories over indexes performance on more stories. This is something that's recently taken a hold. So something to pay attention to, but definitely keep posting your stories. And then, of course, your raw videos. This can be just reels of you walking down the street ranting, or in the moment shots that maybe you can make a story or a feed post. Keeping things as sort of like a raw video format and not being afraid to post things that just come to mind is going to be very, very, very important. Don't think things through too much into a bucket, but sort of if you're in the moment and you feel like being able to film something, then I say go for it. Other things to consider when it comes to your content mix are around post scheduling and planning for efficiency. So you can post certain things for your content, but if you don't have a plan in place on how they're actually going to come out, it's kind of going to fall apart because a lot of posts might be re-engagements or additional posts to original post formats that you want. So for example, posting frequency is a part of your content mix, because if you say to yourself, you're going to post 7 times a week, but you don't have a way to make 7 high quality reels, but you do have a way to make 2 decently good carousels and 5 high quality reels, that's going to impact how you can post and when you can post. So altogether, sort of the restrictions around how often you can post at the quality level you can expect are going to impact what your content mix is. And knowing how often to post really just comes down to your own posting schedule and really what you're setting your goals for. I would say 3 to 5 posts a week at the moment is working exceptionally well if you can promote high quality content. If it's sort of whatever and you're not happy with your videos, but you're posting them, you need to post more. But even then, the platform isn't really rewarding it. You have to have quality and quantity. And what that quality looks like is intentionality. What's your why for doing this in the first place? Another sort of unleveraged piece is ensuring that you're cross posting on platforms. I take an approach where I like to post a long form video on YouTube that sort of links to the content that I'm going to end up posting on my Instagram page. So that way I can sort of build 2 different audiences or sort of have them interact, but the storyline remains the same and it all sort of supports the brand and the storyline that I'm trying to communicate. But if you want to be able to cross promote for efficiencies and cross post for efficiencies, you can take your reels on Instagram, post them on LinkedIn, post them on TikTok, post them on YouTube Shorts, etc. But the platforms obviously have nuances, and not all content performs equally across, but you still have the ability to post regardless. Another thing I'll say is to take advantage of new platforms this year. Threads is unbelievably popular. I know you might not believe it if you're not a Threads user, but if you are a Threads user, you'll see there's a lot of engagement to be had there at the moment, especially as Instagram and Meta look to take down X, and with the growth of Blue Sky, Threads sees a real opportunity to take advantage of the moment, and I would highly recommend posting there to experience a good bump in social engagement. All right, the next thing in your social media strategy is your engagement plan. And while I would say that in 2022, you might be able to put together a good content commenting strategy, what are you going to comment about, etc., it's kind of frivolous. At the end of the day, it comes down to having somebody engaged with comments to actually build a robust commenting strategy. If you don't have a social media manager on your team, or as a content creator, you're not actively interested in certain conversations, your account is really going to flounder. It needs to be something that's a part of your ritual, and you have to be responding to over 90% of comments in order to get results. One hack that I like to use in my strategy is that it all comes down to downtime. Am I on the couch and I'm chilling? Maybe I'll just fire off some comments. Am I in a lineup at Starbucks? Maybe I'll just fire off some comments. I've found though over the years that this gets also pretty exhausting because, again, I'm managing client accounts. And so if I'm mixing both and I'm just constantly on Instagram, that's really going to tire me out. So it really comes down to what works for you and how you can maintain quality and authenticity without just sort of like mailing it in and leaving comments for comments' sake, because that really it's not going to do anything for you. I'm not going to belabor this point, but the next step is going to be your analytics strategy. Review your analytics, ensure they're trending up. If they're trending up, that's the most important part for content creators. For brands, it gets a lot more hyper specific. I can get into a specific analytics video, but we are at a very lengthy time for this video already. So just check your analytics and have a strategy around how you're going to improve them if they're not trending in the right direction. Again, if you want a separate video on that, comment down below. But for now, we'll go to the final step. We need to test new formats. This is critical. Instagram and YouTube and TikTok are always releasing new sort of ways for us to engage with our audiences. And those new features tend to be the ones that have the highest engagement above all else. If you leverage these, you will have unexplored growth unequivocally. So making room in your content mix, and of the 7 posts you post a week, if one of those is experimental, that's very important because you might surprise yourself and inject new life into your account. Timely content and monitoring trends is also very important. Being trend aware and ensuring that your content is easily manipulatable so that you can adjust things in the moment for things that might be happening is very key to sort of being relevant in like culture of whatever your niche actually is. And then of course, we want to make sure we're refining our strategy. So with that, that's going to take me to the last part of today's video, which is essentially projections of the new year. If you took advantage of some of the tactics and strategies that we talked about in today's video, let me know. Comment things that you maybe want to be a little bit more in depth for future videos. We're obviously pretty long on this one. I'm trying to condense some of the more valuable information for you. So literally, I'm happy to answer any questions, especially if you send me a DM on Instagram. But the last part of today's video, I just want to briefly touch on sort of what I'm thinking for the new year. That way you can get a better feel for the direction of this channel and kind of see what I'm going to be up to. So a lot of the times, street photography for me over the years was fun. I'm not going to lie. But I think it's just because the world's a different place. I think Toronto's changed a lot. I think the stories that can be told in Toronto in a street photography way aren't actually the stories that I want to tell. And so I'm taking a different approach to my content, especially on Instagram in 2025. It's going to be a lot more Canada focused. We're going to do a lot more traveling around the country. We're going to tell a lot more authentic stories with a lot more video focus rather than just street photography. So I'm really excited to sort of rebuild the page into a travel and experiential page around Canadian stories and authenticity. That's going to be what's happening there. A lot of photography still of what I hope to be epic locations in Canada and really showcasing why this country is so great. as part 2. On the creative studio side, I'm going to be hunting for a lot more creative clients. A lot of my work has been dual social media strategy, content creation, and I'm really wanting to get onto that video side of things to help grow client accounts that are going to make a bigger difference, I feel like, because a lot of the times when I'm hired as a strategist and there's not really the capabilities for content creation, I find that we're able to dial in on the strategy, but the content itself might be left to a graphic designer that's using generic templates to engage a community, and that's just simply not going to work this year. So figuring out the balance to offer those services a lot more integrated, I think, is going to be the key to unlocking client success and inevitably helping to grow my business more as well. And I'm excited to take those key learnings and share them on YouTube. And one of the things I want to do with that is potentially start a little like podcast roundup at the end of every month, maybe sharing a little bit more of the business behind the scenes. And of course, things that are happening along my travels that relate back to the business. Pretty much everything I do for travel goes back to social media or is a part of a client pitch or client work in some way, whether I show it on social media or not. So I want to make an effort to really share that and tell a better story with it. So if you enjoyed today's video, I want to say thank you for watching. If you have a need or you want to share your own goals for the new year, comment down below. Let me know what you think. And of course, with that, I always just want to say thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoy the new content to come. And with that, I will see you all in the next one.